Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a great first half of their week. It's been a good one here so far, so good. Liking the way the week is shaping out, apart from the fact that I went and injured myself this afternoon. So, yeah, I'm a bit sore. But I took some pain medication before the show started, so hopefully we'll be fine. But yeah, I had a little fall. But I'm okay. I'm not too badly hurt. You know, not injured enough that I need to go hospital or anything like that, but I have certainly hurt myself for sure. But I will be all right. So Mike Mike is here. Hello, Mike. Good to see you, my friend. And he says, "Am I here? Is this real?" No, Mike, you are not here. You are dreaming this. This is just, you know, some weird little fantasy. I don't know. I'm kidding. Let's see who else is here. Billy Morgan's here, and Ron the Keyman is also here, and Kyle Traduziak is here. The aforementioned Mike and Venus are here. Matt Cochran's here as well. Brett Marler is here. Paul Morgan. Keith from Radio Tuck Frumpet is also here. And Lloyd, the man, my dear friend from Paparaptor Music, is also here. Bobby Booth is here too. And who else do we have? We got Dwayne here, and we got the W5 family. And and we got Just Bob here as well, which is cool. Venus is still in bed. Okay, there we go. So it's just Mike. All right, so welcome everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. And for those of you that are not aware, we currently have the Halloween Songwriting Challenge for 2025 ongoing at the moment. And if you would like to get involved in that, then the person to reach out to is my partner in crime for all of these challenges, the Christmas one and the Halloween one, is Rich Cresswell. So you need to make contact with him, and he will get you added to the workspace that we have going for this. If you were part of last year's challenge and you didn't leave the workspace and you would like to be involved again, then you are already in, because we're using the same workspace as last year. We've just rebranded it for this year. So if you want to take part and you are still in that workspace, you are very welcome to take part again this year. There are prizes up for grabs for the successful song. So for those of you that don't know what these challenges are all about, basically the Halloween challenge is an opportunity for you to create a piece of music that is designed to scare the shit out of me and Rich. And as usual, we have set a little bit of criteria along the way. So last year, we basically said everybody had to use this particular scale. And so we've done that a couple of times. But this year, we decided you can basically do largely whatever you want. However, if you use one or more of the suggested scales, which we have put up on the workspace, one of which is the Superlocrian dominant scale, the diminished whole tone scale, the whole tone scale. If you use any of those scales, then you get bonus points for doing so. And it doesn't mean that your whole piece has to use those scales. It could just be one section of your piece uses one or more of those scales. And of course, creativity is key. So the more creative you are, and the scarier your piece, and the best use of those scales is what's going to win, or is what is most likely to win, I should say. So The competition itself closes on October 26th at the end of the Sunday Night Live show on October 26th. So that would be 1 a.m. UK time. That'll be 7 p.m. Central. That is when the door is closed and no further entries will be accepted. So if you submit your final piece to the workspace in the submissions folder after 1 a.m., it will not be counted. Okay? So get your submissions in by then. Now, the piece needs to be at least 3 minutes long and no more than 5 minutes long. So somewhere around about 3 to 5 minutes, make your piece of music last that long, and make sure it has all the elements that we've talked about. So you want to scare the shit out of us, and you want to be very, very creative, and make use of all of the, well, not all of, but you can if you want to. You can use all of the scales, or you can use one of the scales. You can use all of the scales all the way through your piece, or you can use one or more of the scales in a certain part of your piece. So long as there is those scales present in some way, shape, or form in one of the sections of your piece, then it will get bonus points for doing so. Just Bob says, are the whole tone scales only in C like you played, or can they be any key? Did some looking and it seems like everyone uses C. C is a good starting point because it's easy to visualize. It's basically 3 white notes, 3 black notes. But you can start it on any key center. You can start any of the scales on any key center. So you can start it on C, you can start it on whatever note you want to start on. So for example, you could, if you wanted to, have one section that is on C, and then you could decide to shift that whole thing up a minor third and start it on E flat. And then you have to think about how this is going to sound. So you're going to have E flat, F, G, A, B, D flat, E flat. It's going to sound a little bit different. Okay, but you can start it any way you want. It's just easier to play when it's on C. Or you can use the diminished whole tone scale, which basically uses those same notes, but adds the flat 2 and the flat 3 as well. Which is basically the D flat melodic minor scale starting on C. For, you know, if you want to be really, really technical about it. But let's say you do one section that's on C. And then you decide, I want to go up a fourth. Or I want to go up another tone from there. So you can start it any way you want. You can start it on C, C sharp, D, wherever you want to start, any of the scales. It doesn't have to be in C. I'm not expecting anybody's works to all be in C. If everybody's works are all in C, then you've kind of maybe not understood the nature of the brief for this thing. Okay, so you can start it on D. So basically for this kind of music, and we kind of covered this last year as well, but for this kind of music, we're not necessarily talking about key signatures. So we're not necessarily talking about D major, C major, E flat major. We're talking key centers, which is a different thing. Now, a key signature and a key signature and a key center, I should say, can be the same thing. But in this context, where we're dealing with music based around a scale or a tone row, which is technically what we're talking about here, we're talking about a key center. So basically a home center, if you like. So if your scale is going to start on C, then C is your key center. If you're going to start it on F, okay, then that's your key center. Same for G. Okay, and I'm doing this without looking. So that's the G major whole tone scale. F. I had to look this time. All right, so you can start any of these scales anywhere you like, and you can have maybe one section that's on one particular key center and another section of your song that's in a completely other key center. That's just fine as well. If you really want to kind of go for that scary factor, go for tritones. Tritones are great because they are the ultimate in dissonance, apart from minor ninths. Minor ninths are pretty brutal. Yeah, minor ninths are pretty brutal, but tritones are pretty scary as well. So make use of tritones, make use of minor ninths, make use of all sorts of weird and wonderful intervals and in your harmony and in your scales. Those things will add to the scary factor. So, for example, let's say you have one section that is built on a key center of E flat. Then maybe you do another section that's built around A. So A is the key center for another section. That's a key center separated by a tritone. Okay, so that can get interesting and a little spicy as well. So basically you want to kind of make dissonance. Dissonance is order of the day, right? But you want to manage it. Otherwise it will just start to get ugly and not easy to listen to. So you want this to still be easy to listen to, but you want it to be spicy, okay? So think of this in culinary terms as well. You don't want to overdo the spice because then nobody can eat it unless you already have a palate for extreme spice. Not everybody is going to have a palate for extreme spice, especially when it comes to musical spice. Most Western palates are not built for extreme spiciness. Maybe a little bit of, a little bit of kick is what most people can tolerate when it comes to musical spice. But, again, that depends upon people's musical tastes and people's musical experiences. I've experienced music that's been completely bland and plain all the way up to, ghost pepper spice. I've played music and I've written music that's between both of those extremes. And it's good fun to play, but if you've never been exposed to that extreme end of things, then you're not going to like it. You are not going to like it. You are going to reject it immediately. Until you get used to what it is, you get to understand the flavors, you get to understand what goes into music that's like that. So that is the key to, Kyle is absolutely right. Please limit the amount of emojis that you post, please. We don't actually have an official rule about limiting emojis, but please, just a couple here and there is fine. If you are trying to explain something, or if you're trying to, if you're trying to bring a little humor to something that you've said, that's fine. But just posting random emojis, please don't do that. So if you make your music very, very spicy, you need to be able to musically explain that spice, justify that spice to the person consuming the music, so they understand what it's all about. Why is it that spicy? Right? So you have to have some contrast. So have some spice, have some non-spice, have some spice, have some non-spice. Try and balance those kind of things in your piece, and you will do well. Has anyone else got any questions about the Halloween challenge? And we can discuss those a bit more. So if you want to talk a bit more about the scales or how you can form chords from the scales, we can talk about that. If you want to talk about sound choices, well, I mean, that's kind of up to you. Sound choices are up to you. Style, genre, all of that's kind of up to you. Different people are going to do different things, man. I have to say, one thing I don't think we have ever had in any of the Halloween challenges that Rich and I have done so far, I don't think we've ever had a country song that has been super spicy and scary. But that might be something. Keith says, is a song just under 6 minutes okay? If you can get that down to being as close to 5 as you can, that would be better. So yeah, if you can get it kind of as close to 5 minutes as you can, that would be better, rather than kind of, because otherwise, if I allow somebody to do a 6 minute song, then somebody else will say, well, mine's actually, a little bit more like 7. Will you accept that as well? And before you know it, everyone's like stretching the envelope until we end up with people saying, hey, can I submit a 12-minute song? No. We've got to have some rules somewhere. I mean, I'm prepared to have some flexibility with durations, but, at the end of the day, Rich and I have got to listen to every submission. So the longer your pieces are, the less time we're going to have to listen to everybody. So try and do a little bit of editing to get it down to as close to 5 as you can. And, we will allow a little bit of leeway, a little bit of flexibility. Brett says, so the Superlocrian and diminished whole tone scales are the same thing with different names. Yeah, kinda. They are. But they have different names for different contexts. So the Superlocrian mode is more of a modal context, whereas diminished whole tone scale is, something that you would use as a device within a tonal context, like a major minor tonal context, which is why it's actually called the diminished whole tone scale. But yeah, technically both are the same. For example, we call the major scale, but really it's the Ionian mode. And the same with the minor scale. We call that the Aeolian mode. So different contexts for different things, right? So, just like B major can be B major, but the same thing enharmonically can also be C flat major. So context is always king when you're using these things. And that rhymes. So yeah, Superlocrian and diminished whole tone scale are pretty much identical scales. They are the same thing. It's just a matter of context. So for example, if I was improvising on a vamp, a funk vamp, and we're just playing on a dominant chord, and that's it, we're just playing one dominant chord for, an extended period of time, we're just vamping away on that one chord, then, I would mix things up. Like I would mix Dorian mode, Mixolydian mode, pentatonic patterns, but I'd also do the diminished whole tone scale as well, because it's just cool. And it's cool, and it sounds very, very awesome and very sophisticated when you use it over a dominant chord like that. So, however, if you're going to use it as a mode from which you are going to derive your melody and your harmony, kind of like I did last year with the Locrian flat 6, I used that as a mode, and I derived my entire piece based out of that mode. So it was a modal piece. Whereas this time I might not do that. This time I might do something that's a little bit more tonal, as in major minor, but I might actually use, the diminished whole tone scale in that context, or the whole tone scale in that context. But I don't know. I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do yet, to be honest. I had thought about doing like a salsa piece that basically uses the diminished whole tone scale. And that would make the Montuno piano patterns weird as shit for a start. And so that might actually lend itself quite well to being a little bit scary, because the Montuno part is going to sound a little bit weird. So I might do that. I might do a straight up salsa tune, with everything in that diminished whole tone super Locrian kind of concept. I might do that, because that could be quite fun. So no limits, other than time, and using one or more of the scales that I've talked about. Yeah, sky's the limit. You can write whatever you want. But if you're going to write something that's got lyrics, please don't use any profanity or blasphemous language. Keep it clean. But yeah, whichever way you're going to go. You can either do vocal or you can do instrumental. Guitar players, this is really going to be a challenge for you, I think. Because we're using extra spicy scales this time, and we're giving you choice over using these extra spicy scales. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for you guitar players. So what I'm going to recommend is something that Steely Dan did with Asia. The title track of the song, of the record, Asia, that was released in 1977. And what they did was they layered up a whole bunch of like 7 or 8 single line guitars to create their guitar harmonies, because the chord changes couldn't be played on one guitar, because the chord voicings were either too wide or too close and just couldn't be played on one guitar. So they basically stacked up 7 or 8 guitars, playing 2, maybe 3 notes each, to make the guitar sound. So that's what you hear on Asia. So maybe that might be an approach that you guitar players could take, where you layer up guitar parts that maybe take a couple of notes each. So you're not having to try and figure out how to play, chords like Alan Holdsworth, because really only Alan Holdsworth can play those kind of chords. So, if you are struggling to make those kind of voicings and you're going, this is not really possible on guitar, it is. You just have to be a little bit creative and imaginative and layer up some guitar parts. And actually, you could end up creating quite an interesting sound, layering up different guitars, putting some guitars on the left, some guitars on the right, and all playing different voicings together. Could be quite interesting. You could end up with, nice layered minimalist music. I mean, you could like build a little rhythmic cell of, say, 3 or 4 notes, and then just stack harmony on top of harmony on top of harmony on both sides, left and right, with the guitars. And you could create this kind of kaleidoscopic, spooky sounding, minimalist piece of music. That would be pretty cool. So you could do that with just like 1 guitar or 2 guitars, playing different tones, different amps, maybe 1 on the left, 1 on the right, and just stack loads of different parts and create something like a nice little sound collage using, I don't know, super Locrian scale or using whole tone scale, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to try. That's just a suggestion for guitar players that might work quite nicely. Omitting voices within a chord will also work. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say don't think about playing root notes, because you're not dealing with a key signature. So, and especially if you've got a bass, you don't need the root notes. So play rootless voicings. Kyle says to Mike, use your best bassoon patch. That's funny. That's funny. I like that. So any further questions on that? On this songwriting challenge? I'm really, really looking forward to what you guys are going to come up with. It's going to be very, very cool. The last couple of years, I've done something that's definitely out of my wheelhouse, which is kind of orchestral stuff. Now, for full disclosure, I do works for student films. I work with one of the local universities here in Edinburgh, and I do scores for student films. And so some of that does use orchestral sounds and that kind of thing, but a lot of them don't, but some of them certainly do. And so I have to kind of get my orchestral kind of composer chops together when I do those. And so for the last couple of these challenges, I've done orchestral pieces, but I've also layered things like synthesizers in with orchestral sounds as well. So really the sky's the limit with what you want to do. If you want to, write something that's outside of your wheelhouse, give it a go. Something that's not in your genre, give it a go. That's probably what I'm going to do, is write something that in a style that I don't normally write in, just to set myself an extra challenge. So if you want to try that, then by all means, give it a go, for sure. So you can treat these scales either as a mode that you derive your entire melody and harmony from, or you can write much more in a kind of major minor tonality with regular chords, but just using these scales to provide some melody and some additional spice to your chords. If you want to do it that way, you can absolutely do it that way. You don't have to be kind of modal about it. But I have found, personally, that it's actually easier to take the scale as a mode and derive everything from that. So the chord changes, as well as the melody as well. So when I say take a modal approach, what I mean is I'm avoiding regular chords. So if I was to use the whole tone scale, I would be taking chords like, let's see, I might do something, kind of like this. None of that is functional harmony. None of that is functional harmony in the same way that going C, A minor, F, and G is. Okay? So this is non-functional harmony, but I'm using the scale to work to build my chords. And I'm trying to make little clusters. So, I've got that as a cluster, that as a cluster. Got this as a dissonance being moved about. All right. And then I'm moving major thirds at the top. All right. So you can on piano, but what about other sounds? You can use whatever sound you want, Mike. I'm just playing it on piano because that's what sounds the clearest over the stream. But I could use any sound. For example, I could do this on cinematic lights, for example, where I'm using kind of strings, a string kind of sound. So I could go. right? And I could do all of that over like a C pedal, for example. And of course, the cool thing about cinematic lights is that when you apply some extra pressure, you get the detuning effect, which can be really, really handy. Yeah, so yeah, the cinematic lights might have been a little bit quiet because I'm actually using the cinematic light sound that's in my theme tune at the moment, and it's a little bit lower down in the mix. But yeah, I can turn it up. So it's maybe a little louder. All right, so you can make use of things like lead architect and cinematic lights because it has that pressure sensitivity, so you can make the notes sound detuned as well. So dissonance, detuning, aftertouch, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't really matter terribly much how you want to do it. Yeah, so it may have been a little bit quiet, but that should be resolved now. If I just do Control Z here, there we go. That puts it back to where it was. All right, so that's an example of creating chords using the whole tone scale, and you can apply that to any of the other scales, where you just create little clusters and you move them about to create your harmony. So harmony in this way is not functioning the same way as it would in a standard pop song, where you've got, that's what we call functional harmony, because all the chords, they have a function. So this is our tonic, right? So this is 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. Those chords all have a logical progression, and they're all related to the C major scale. So they have a logical reason for being. Whereas what we're talking about here, none of those. None of that's functional harmony. All of that is non-functional harmony. The chords are not progressing in a logical way. So that's the difference. So you can make use of non-functional harmony pedal points. And a pedal point, if you're not sure what a pedal point is it's where you have a note like I had there. Where the chords change over the top of the note. Okay, so that's a pedal point. You can do an inverted pedal point as well, where actually the static note is above the chord, something like this. So the note that was static, that's an inverted pedal point because it's above the chords. A regular pedal point tends to be below the chords. It's a bass note. right? And then the chords change over the top of it. Rich says, there are some really cool free effects out there. Freak Show Industries have some offerings. So freakshowindustries.com, go check those out. And you will find some really spooky stuff that you could add to your song. Because sound effects are definitely allowed. Because my last piece that I did was called Bagpipe Murder, which features somebody starting up bagpipes, and then either the player or the bagpipe itself gets stabbed. I leave it up to you which. And that's kind of the whole premise of the whole song. Bobby Biz says, I'll stick to mixing, less brain power. Well, the cool thing about the mixing challenge is you can still make it spooky, right? You can still make it scary by how you use effects, how you use automation, how you use reverbs, delays, maybe even doing some detuning, for example. So there's lots of things you can do as a mix engineer for this challenge, because there is a mixing element to this challenge as well, okay? Rich has provided a piece called The Hag, which, by the way, I think is a great name for the piece. Having listened to the piece, I think it's a great title for the piece. So you can mix that, or you can team up with another entrant and mix their work. That's also a possibility that you could do. Chris Maragner is here. He's only 40 minutes late, but that's okay. You know, life gets in the way sometimes, and that's all right. Not a big deal, mate. Rich also says some excellent free instruments from Yuhei. So if you want to go check those out as well, there's a good bunch there. And Diva is one of those instruments, which I have heard lots about, but I have never used it because I've just never had a need to use those particular instruments. But that is a good option to check out for sure. So, folks, you will notice that there is a pinned post to the top of the chat there, because my 50th birthday is coming up very, very soon. It's October 9th. We will be doing a special birthday celebration show on October the 8th, right? So, you'll see in that link, there is a link to my PayPal. If you would like to make a gift for my 50th birthday, you can click that link and enter whatever you would like to enter. And all gifts would be very, very gratefully received if you decide to do that. There is no obligation. Nobody has to do it. But if you would like to, as part of my birthday, then you can do that. I'd be very happy if you did. It would make my day if you did. But if you don't want to, that's okay. Not a big deal. Mike says he's not rich. And Kyle says PayPal is on the way. And Bobby Biz says, old man. Yeah, I'm catching you up, Bobby, because if memory serves, I think you may have been a veteran of the American Civil War, I think you were there. Or maybe you were there when Caesar Augustus invaded France. I'm not sure. You might have been a wee bit too young for that. I'm kidding. I'm pulling your leg, mate. Chris Maragner says you are just a young'un. What I just said to Bobby. Yeah, 50. 50, but I have the knees of an 80-year-old. At least that's what my doctor said. So, I was kind of a wee bit shocked that my doctor said that. And I thought, okay, my doctor's just being rude. Yeah, doctor's just being rude. So anyway, I went and had like scans and x-rays, and the even the doctors at the flipping hospital said you've got knees like an 80-year-old. I was just like, yeah, my doctor said that, and thanks. So anyway, yes, I have knees that don't really work very well at all. They haven't really worked very well since I was 20. Um, when I was in my late teens, I had potential for having a career as a professional athlete, as a sportsman, playing county cricket. And unfortunately, my knees said no. So I was forced to retire from cricket at the age of 20, which is disappointing. But you see, at the same time, I had this growing music career at the same time, and I was having a bit of a struggle balancing the two, playing gigs and then playing playing a county game as well. And you know, I couldn't really balance the two, so my body basically chose for me. And looking back, best thing that could ever happen, because I have had a fantastic, I've had a fantastic 35 or so year career in music professionally, and I couldn't have been happier with that. Because, it's a much longer career than you have as a professional sportsman. If you're a professional sportsman, you're lucky if you have a 15-year career in professional sport, and then you have to find some other thing to do, and maybe you end up in, if you reach like the very high echelons of professional sport, when you retire, you can end up in sports journalism, you can end up as a pundit or a commentator or something like that. So, those kind of things can lengthen your career for sure. But I was very glad that I was able to just turn my music career into a full-time professional career. And here I am, at the age of 50. And I don't play gigs anymore, but I play a lot of session work when I'm not working for Presonus. And Presonus is my day job. It's what I do full-time. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. That is for certain. But I definitely love what I do when I'm doing recording sessions, or if I'm writing arrangements for big bands, for orchestras, for choirs, stuff like that. I love doing that too. But yeah, I have knees that don't really work. So age is a weird thing for me. Bob says, I'm 54. I feel 24. My body feels 74. Getting ready to document all my meds so I can contribute to our conversations. Yeah, I'm on quite a lot of meds as well. And Bob says 6 days after my birthday, he turns 55. Well, that's awesome, Bob. We will try and remember your birthday as well. And, I will play happy birthday in the appropriate style, which, given our age, is probably, it should be in the minor key by now, right? Kind of once you get past 40, it's no longer the major key happy birthday. It's no longer. Maybe it should be. And that's okay. I don't mind playing happy birthday in a minor key. I will play happy birthday at my own birthday in a minor key. For sure. So Rich is saying to Mike and Venus, but also this applies to everybody. Everything is on the workspace. So if you want to be invited, reach out to Rich, and he will get you. He will send you an invite and get you in, and then you'll see all the details. Oh, it's 5 days. There you go. Okay, so it's a day sooner. Okay, that's cool. Brett Marlin says, I take so many meds in the morning, I feel like I'm on tour with the Stones. I know exactly how you feel. I'm on so many different medications for different things. Like, I'm on pain medications for my knees, but I'm also on medication for my blood because I have a blood disorder, which is a progressive blood disorder, and there is no cure. So I'm on medication for that. I will be on medication for that until the end of my days, because there's no cure, and it will get worse. I have totally accepted that. So Yeah, there's no buzz. There's absolutely no buzz from my blood meds, that's for sure. And not really from the pain relief. I suppose if my knees are really, really bad, like in the winter, maybe there is a little bit because I have to take more. Because in the winter, my knees are just, it's almost unbearable, to be honest. But hey, it is what it is. So 1 hour after this show is done, Ziggy has his Studio One meetup, and there is a link there to the Zoom call. So if you are a Studio One user, then you can join that meetup and meet a whole bunch of other Studio One users, and you can talk music production. You can talk about what you're working on. You can also talk about what you would like to see in the future of Studio One. Excuse me. So if if there's like particular features you'd like to see, then you can talk about those there as well. So that's kind of what the meetups were kind of started for. It was an opportunity for folks that use Studio One to get to know each other by and largely, and form, collaborations, form friendships, that kind of thing. And I have seen this work. My own meetup that I host on the last Friday of every month. Everybody that attends there pretty much knows everybody else now. And we've had new people join in the last 12 months. And, they are just a part of the furniture now. Everybody knows them. They know us. And it's great. Everybody knows everybody else. And people are actually doing collaborations with each other. They're working with each other. They're inspiring each other. And that's what those meetups are for. They are designed so that you have a place where you can be inspired to make more music, to develop your music making skills, to grow as a musician, as a producer, as a mix engineer, as whatever, in whatever way you're using Studio One, so that you get better and better at it. But we also tackle problems and issues that you might encounter in Studio One. So, if you've got a particular issue and you think maybe, hey, is this a bug? I'm not really sure. Then the cool thing is you can talk about that at the meetup, and other users can start up Studio One on their computers. They can follow your steps to reproduce the issue and see if they can. And if they can, then it is definitely something worth reporting to the tech support team at Presonus, because they are awesome. And if they can reproduce it as well, then they will internally report that to the developers and to the QA team. We take issues and we take bug reports. We take all of those things very seriously, because they're important for us to be able to reproduce, and also to be able to find where they are in the code and fix them. So those are what the Studio One meetups are for. So if you want to go join that, then please do follow Kyle's link to the Zoom call. There is a password to get in, but once you are in, you are in. Rich says, if you want to ask any questions ahead of Ziggy's Studio One meetup, he will be in a Lander session before heading over. So if you want to go join Rich's Lander session beforehand, you can definitely do that. All right. I'm not seeing any more songwriting questions or anything like that, or any other music theory questions or any stuff like that. So we will probably finish it here. We'll probably end the show here. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody for coming tonight. You guys are the best. And a very big thank you to Rich Cresswell for helping me make this Halloween challenge, and all the other ones that we've had, by the way, possible. Rich puts a lot of work and a lot of effort into these, plus he also sponsors the darn things, which is fantastic, and I am extremely grateful beyond measure to him for doing it. It's really great. It just benefits everybody. So big thank you to him. Big thank you to all my other moderators with the purple wrenches. Thank you for being here. And to everybody else who is not a moderator but is here nonetheless, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. I believe this is Songwriting Simplified show number 117. And just to let you know, on Sunday, we will be 3 shows away from 400 Sunday Night Lives. So we are getting close, folks. I will put in... I will schedule the 400th show so that it's in there, and we will have definitely a celebration for 400 Sunday Night Lives. So that is all coming up in the next few weeks, folks. So I will see you guys on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you then. Good night.